Hi there, folks. The legend and the flaws. Why the Soviet TT pistol was a game changer but got a bad rap. In the early 1930s, the Soviet Union is hustling to build a powerhouse military. The old Nagant revolver, a trusty sidekick for years, is starting to feel like a relic. The Red Army is stuck with a mishmash a foreign pistol. Different caliber, different parts, total chaos. So in 1929, the Soviet launched a contest to design a new standard issue pistol. Enter Fyodor Tokarev, a seasoned gunsmith who already made a name for himself. His creation, the TT, short for the Tula Tokarev, named after the city where it was made and the man who designed. The TT became a legend. 123 years, the Soviets churned out nearly 2 million of these bad boys. Copies popped up in over a dozen countries, and it was used in more than a dozen military worldwide. Fun fact, as recently as 2020, a modern version was crafted in the USA using the cutting-edge tech like 3D printing and ultrasonic welding. This pistol saw action in countries, wars and the conflicts, and from the battlefield World War II to gritty streets on 1919 Russia, where it earned a dark reputation as a hitman gun. But despite its fame, Soviet officers and cops often grumble about why. Let's dig into the story and prove the myth and figure out where Tokarev nailed it and where he might miss the mark. Fyodor Tokarev, the man behind the myth. To get why the teacher turned out the way they did, you gotta know the guy who made it. Fyodor Tokarev wasn't just some random tinker. Born in 1871 in a small Kazakh village, he grew up with a knack for mechanics. By 1891, he'd graduate from a four-year military trade school specializing in weapons. He spent nearly a decade as a gunsmith, studied at a military academy, and trained at an officer's shooting school. By the time he tackled the TT project, he already designed several successful weapons. This dude knew the stuff. Now the persistent rumor that the TT is just a knockoff of a John Browning design. The famous American gunsmith behind classic like the Colt 1911. This myth probably started with the Soviet propaganda, hyping Tokarev as a self-taught genius who outdid the West. Truth is, Tokarev wasn't a rookie copying someone else's homework. True, the TT looks a bit like Browning 1903 model or the Colt 1911, but inside it's a different beast. The locking mechanism, the way as eject shells, Tokarev put his own spin on it, blending the beast idea from around the world with the Soviet need. Why does this copycat myth stick around? Well, back in the late 1920s, the Soviet Union was playing catch up with the West. Borrowing tech was a common thing, license production and straight up reserve engineering. But Tokarev wasn't just copying, he was tasked with building a pistol for a powerful 7.62 by 25mm cartridge. Based on a German Mauser design the Soviets were already making. His job was to make it simple, cheap, and tough enough for war. And boy, did he deliver mostly. The TT was built for battle, and it had some seriously stretch that made it star. Let's break down why it became a legend. Super simple and cheap. First off, the TT was crazy simple. Its design used minimal parts, which means it was dirt cheap to produce. In the chaos of World War II, when every penny counted, this was a game changer. Factories in Tula cranked out TTs by the thousand, arming soldiers, soldiers, officers, and even partisans. The simplicity also made it breeze to maintain. A rookie soldier Cal strip it down and clean in the minute, no fancy training need. In a war where time was tight, that was huge. The TT 7.62 by 25mm cartridge was a beast. It fired bullets at about 420 meters per second with 1.5 times the punch of the old Nagant revolver. At 25 meters, it cold blast through a soldier helmet, and later it even took down early bulletproof vests. The kind of power made a fearsome sidearm of the battlefield. It also had a solid range, 50 meters for accurate shooting, twice what a Nagant could manage. The long barrel, light triggered pull, and a smooth mechanic, which kicked after the bullet left the barrel, made the super accurate. Soldier counted hit target with confidence even at a distance. Compact and lightweight. Weighing in just 940 grams fully loaded, the TT was lighter than the famous German Luger P08. It was flat and compact, perfect for tucking into holster without slowing you down. Officers loved it for its portability, especially when it dug in bullets on the front lines. It was also great for concealed carry, which came in handy later in less savory cycles. Versatility and times. The TT wasn't just a war machine. Over time, it inspired sport, non-lethal airsoft, and signal version. The Soviet tweaked it 5 times during production, ironing out kinks and making a near perfect. Even today, nearly a century later, it's still in use in some country in the world. The 2020 American 3D printer version proved that Tokarev design is still kicking. So why did people complain about TT? For the straight, the TT wasn't perfect. Soviet officers and cops had plenty to gripe about. Let's dive into the drove them nuts. A weird military demand. One ad complaint came from a pre-war military request: the pistol hand to be usable, thus at tanks, fire and port. Sounds cool, right? Problem is the TT design didn't play nice with that idea. It was too to aim towards a teeny slit. Thankfully, tanks soon ditched those ports, and their equipment faded away, but it left some officer in yawned early now. Reliability issues. The TT wasn't built for non-stop shooting, and its lifespan can be short if you push it hard. Some call it unreliable, but that was more about wartime production than Tokarev design. Factories were stretching than during World War II, and some TTs came out less than stellar. Still, German officers who had the ultra-label Lugers often snagged TTs and trophies for their power and accuracy. With the proper care, the TT could hold it on, but in the heat of war, who had time for that? If the TT was a beast of power, it was a bit of that in comfort. The grip shape and the angle were awards for many shooters. Hidden in steady during excitant firing was a chore, and compared to slick design like a Colt 911 or Walther P38, the TT felt clunky. Tokarev seems to skip the make it comfy memo. Magazine mishaps. The TT magazine release was another headache. The button was super sensitive and sat right under the shooter dump. And one move and boom, your magazine on the ground. Tokarev probably wanted to speed up reloads, but in practice it led to embracing fumbles in the heart of battle. The TT triggered system was a big soft spot. Soviet Marshal Budyonny, a big shot at the time, instead on ditching automatic safety. Tokarev had to get creative, and the result was a clunky process to put the pistol on safe. You had to jungle the hammer and trigger at the same time. Soldiers called it dance with the tambourine. Worse, Colo safety carried a TT with a round and chamber. It was always ready to fire, which means accidents shot were a real risk. One wrong move and you could shoot your own foot or worse. A soldier called life with the TTX quicks. Soviet cops were less forgiving. That power cartridge was a double-edged sword in the city street. The bullet called deep through a bad guy and hit an innocent bystander behind them. At the same time, it didn't always stop a criminal in their track. Someone should call still fight back, putting cops in danger. For undercover work, the TT was a pain. Without a round in the chamber, it took precision second to ready the pistol, taking a cop might not have. In the wild 1990, the TT became a favorite for criminals because it was cheap, common, and hard to trace. Cops could track bullets to specific guns, which made their job even tougher. To really get the TT, you need to zoom out and look at the Soviet Union in 1930s. The country was the middle of the massive industrial push. Think Stalin 5 years plan, pouring cash into factories and weapons. The military ate up about 15% of the national budget, compared to raw 10% in the USA, but the Soviets didn't have the luxury of fancy tech like the Americans. They needed weapons that were cheap and easy to mass produce. The TT fit the bill perfectly. By modern estimate, making on TT in the 1940 cost about 100 Soviet rubles, raw 50 to $6 in today money. Compare to the Colt 1911, which ran about $20 but needed precision materials and machines. The TT low cost let the Soviet arm million without breaking the bank. After World War II, things changed. The Soviet rolled out the Makarov pistol in 1951, which was safer, fire, and better for cops. The TT faded from military use but left one elsewhere, from Asian battlefield to Russian street gangs. Its simplicity, its power keep it relevant. Believe it or not, the TT is still around. Copy made everywhere, from China to the USA. The 2020 3D printer version show how Tokarev design stand the test of time. It's not just a gun; it's a cultural icon. It's sport in movie, books, and video games, evoking the grit of World War II or the chaos of 1999 in Russia. Collectors hunt for pristine TT, and in some conflict zone, it's still in action. The TT story about more than just a gun. It's about trade-off. Tokarev built a weapon that was perfect for its time, cheap, powerful, and simple. But its time changer and its flaws stood out. It's reminded that even the coolest inventions have limits. Today, where it's smartphone or cars, we see the same balancing act: cost versus quality, simplicity versus future. The TT show us that perfection isn't always the goal. Sometimes got enough win the day. Economically, the TT was a slam dunk. Its low cost made a simple for the Soviet war machine. Even now, copies like those from China and Norinco sell for under $200 on the global market, competing with the model piston. The TT proves that smart design can keep costs down without sacrificing impact. The TT more than a pistol, it's a symbol of nation fighting to survive. Fyodor Tokarev didn't make a perfect gun, but he made one that mattered. Its simplicity and power won heart. Its clunky grit and safety is you sparked cars. It nearly a century later, it's still a legend, so that make a weapon iconic. It's a raw, power, and grieving story, or those human flaws that make it relatable. Drop it through the comment to share this story with your friends and subscribe to the channel for more epic tales. Your word matters, and can't wait to hear that thing. Hey, I hope that you loved this deep ride. Subscribe the channel, hit the button, and tell us in the comment if the Teti Master Price or Master Fire. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you so much, and bye bye.